All right. Good morning, brothers and sisters. This morning we're going to finish chapter 17. We're in Genesis 17, verses 15 through 27. Recap from yesterday. God had made the covenant now. He has required that Abram now circumcise himself and his sons and all the men. He changed Abram's name to Abraham. And he requires him to once again serve God faithfully and live a blameless life. And he promises him these descendants. And then when he does that, he tells him in verse 15 about his wife now. He does a change in her life too. The beauty of being married is the blessings. When one gets blessed, you both get blessed. It's not just an individual thing. God is using this couple, even though they've made some mistakes and they've lacked faith and they've, in the lack of faith, they decided to help God out of disbelief due to the lack of faith and come up with their own solution that created more problems. And yet God still uses them mightily, even though they're, flawed and just like us, tore up from the floor up, jacked up from the crack up. He still uses them because God is God. God is sovereign. He makes the sun shine down on the wicked and on the good. He makes the rain come down on the wicked and the good. God's going to do what God's going to do. So verse 15 here, he says this, Then God said to Abraham regarding Sarai, your wife, her name will no longer be Sarai. From now on, her name will be Sarah, and I will bless her and give you a son from her. Yes, I will bless her richly, and she will become the mother of many nations. Kings of nations will be among her descendants. God said, here we go. I want to bless her. She's 90 years old and he's 100. Verse 17, Then Abraham bowed down to the ground and he laughed to himself in disbelief. Notice here, as God saying, all right, dude, I'm going to use your wife now. He's like, what? You didn't use her before. We went to Hagar. And now you're saying that now that she's 90, you're going to use her? So outwardly, he bowed down. Okay. But inwardly, within his thoughts, he's like, I don't think so. So it says, 17, Then Abraham bowed down to the ground, but he laughed to himself in disbelief, thinking, how could I become a father at the age of 100, he thought. And how can Sarah have a baby when she's 90 years old? So Abraham said to God, may Ishmael live under your special blessings. So as he outwardly does this bowing down, it looks like submission, but God knows his heart. God knows the posture of his heart. Though he went down like, okay, yes. And the inside, he's like, that's not going to happen. So with his infinite wisdom as a little fleshly man, only 100 years old, he decides, he comes up with a solution. How about we bless the one that's alive? He's 13. How about we bless him? And here's how this portion ministers to me. Again, God has promised me some things, and some things are coming into play, into action. And sometimes we want to hurry things up. Sometimes I want to hurry things up, or sometimes I want to see it happen now because of I'm flesh. I'm human. I have desires. And I love how God just works things out. His timing, his will, his way, Yahweh. And as I see this, he's like, hey, I got a better idea. Almighty God, I got a better idea. All right. How about we pass the blessing on to the one that's alive? And then God says this, verse 19, God replied, nope. Sarah, your wife, will give birth to a son for you. You will name him Isaac, and I will confirm my covenant with him and his descendants as an everlasting covenant. As for Ishmael, I will bless him also, just as you have asked. I will make him extremely fruitful and multiply his descendants. He will become the father of 12 princes, and I will make him a great nation. But my covenant will be confirmed with Isaac, who will be born to you and Sarah about this time next year. God's like, no, dude, I said what I said. Here's how it's going to go down. Your 90-year-old wife's going to get pregnant by your 100-year-old body. All right? And you're going to have a son, you're going to name him Isaac. And you know what? It's not Ishmael's fault what happened. Because you did something dumb, you numpty monkey. You obeyed your wife and you didn't wait on God. I will bless Ishmael too. He also will have a great nation. That's the Arab nation. Through Isaac, we have the 12 tribes of Israel. Through Ishmael, we have the 12 princes of the mighty Arab nation. This is what happens when we decide to alter God's plan. We birth future disasters. And to this day, both nations are at war with each other because of this decision, because of the disbelief of Abraham and Sarah and their infinite, well, not the infinite, they decided to, because they sinned against God. This is the reaping of it nations later. And many times as I sit here and just think about the times I've made mistakes, and while I was in the Word and in prayer, and God says He's going to do something, and yet I get ahead of Him and I solve it myself. I did that many times in my marriage and with my kids. I knew the answer. To me, it was simple. I was like, hey, this is what it is. And I'd share with them. As a father, I got in the way of the Father. And, it led to disaster about 100% of the time. And now that I'm divorced and my kids are older and I'm solo, I look back at all the mistakes I made and I just like, man, if I only would have trusted God, if I only would have waited on Him, if I would have just sought Him faithfully and let Him work through those situations, pray for my kids, be there with them, but allow them to grow in the grace of God and the knowledge of Jesus Christ, and it just blesses me to see this though. Okay, as God's saying, no, I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that. And you know what? I'm going to bless that young man too. It's not his fault. Verse 22, when God had finished speaking, He left Abraham. On that very day, Abraham took his son, Ishmael, and every male in his household, including those born and those who he had bought. Then he circumcised them, cutting off their foreskins just as God had told him. Abraham was 99 years old when he was circumcised, and Ishmael, his son, was 13. Ooh. Both Abraham and his son, Ishmael, were circumcised on the same day, along with all the other men and boys of the household, whether they were born there or bought as servants. All were circumcised with him. Just like in the beginning, when God had first spoke to Abram, before he was Abraham, God said, get up and go and leave. Leave your family, leave your country, leave all that's behind, and I'm going to guide you step by step. Here's what I'm going to do with you. And though it sounded ridiculous, Abraham immediately got up. Once God left, he got up and he did it. Here we go again. 100 years old. God says, check it out, dude. I'm going to make you and your wife mighty. And I'm about to bless her womb at 90 years old. I'm about to bless your quiver at 100. And you're going to birth a son. And the son that you have already, I'm going to bless him too. But the promise of the covenant goes through Isaac and not Ishmael. And as crazy as that sounds, he's like, oh, and to just as a mark of this, a sign. Remember, inward changes must be accompanied by outward signs. He goes, this is a sign of the covenant. Cut off your foreskins. And as soon as God left, Abraham's like, all right, off the skins as they go. You know what I'm saying? It's like, off with the skins, just, yeah. And I love that. Immediately, they got up that day and did this crazy act. Off with the foreskin, man. Get a blade, clean yourself up, and cut the skin off. His obedience to some of those craziest things is what blows my mind. My God is a God of miracles. My God is a God of healing and restoration. My God is a God of grace and mercy. When God says jump, I don't say how high, I just jump now. And it's because stories like this, writings like this, that bless me so much. What may seem impossible to me is possible. All things are possible with God. My life verse is Mark 9:23. If you can believe, all things are possible to him who believes. The beauty of that is the two key words, if and can. If you can believe, then and only then, due to your faith and belief, all things are possible. Brothers and sisters, much love to you all. I got a lot. Maybe I didn't share as much, but I appreciate you listening. Thank you all for staying by my side and just walking through the Word with me. Again, this is application, not interpretation. For me, God just reminded me to walk in obedience, to trust Him, trust the process, be patient, obey, inward and outward. Obey Him wholeheartedly. Much love to you all. May the joy of the Lord be your strength. Remember, choose wisdom over the world. God bless.